Hi, this is Mason Winfield, one of the founders of the Spirit Way Project. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's my friend Michael Bastine.
Mason, thank you for the introduction and welcome everyone. Spirit Way Project is a resource for information on things that typically you can't find anywhere else. So the subject that we'd like to address is this coronavirus, which seems to be everywhere. And this has been something which we've discussed. Primarily, there are events that we watch around in the regions of the world, but when something like this is a global event, it starts falling into some of the prophetic information which I've been asked if this is one of those things, and it is one, but they're asking, the questions are, is this the event that is going to devastate life on the planet? And it is not. It's certainly getting the attention, and it is getting people aware that they need to be prepared for things like this in the future. But it's more of a shift in lifestyle. And if people can't wake up to the fact that they've been really beating the earth up quite badly, and it seems to accelerate when technology, they think technology gets better, and in some instances that is a true statement, but in other instances they use the technology in a more destructive way. So there has to be a lot of caution in venturing into these types of things. Most of the time when we see an event like this, it's a response from the earth. And it's trying to tell the humans your lifestyles and your behaviors are not only harmful to yourself, but it's harmful to the planet. So taking these things into consideration, that the earth is the primary source of all life, and the treatment of the earth is one of our primary concerns. The quality of the water is one of the main factors, but it's the lifestyles that the planet seems to be initiating from certain countries. Then they catch on and they want to copy or repeat or follow a certain way of life. We are in a time when we can still deal with this, but we're entering into another stage when we won't be able to step back or reverse or alter the behavior that will actually make a significant factor for the future, that we still, right now, we have time to address this.
Oh, that's good news. Good news for me. Do you have any words for, a lot of people that are out there right now are really, some people are really alarmed and really worried. And do you have anything to say to people?
Well, we should be alarmed, but not to the point where a lot of times leadership has a tendency to instigate panic and fear. And what people need to do is, in their own lives, have a good basis of understanding of how to live this life and how to interact with the life around us. So the rest of this creation has been observing and watching the earth, and they're not real pleased with what the earth calls progress, what the leading governments or nations make these claims that they're advanced or they're advancing in their progress. In reality, they're covering up the damage or the harm in the way the system is actually portraying life. So as individuals, the humans really need to start going back to some of the older teachings, and they have to start finding the areas in that element which tells us we have to make some changes within our households. And those changes need to be conserving more of the natural resource, but have an understanding that the future generations, that we today are having an impact on either their success or their difficulties that we're going to hand down to them.
Ah, that's so heavy. I mean, you know, when I interviewed one of your old buddies, Ted Williams, he was a Tuscarora elder and a medicine man. He was a member of the False Face Society. And I would have never known him without you, but he said that every decision he made was based on what would be best for the unborn children. And he was always looking down the road. What did he say? 7 generations?
7 generations is typical amongst many of the native nations. Most of them believe that we need to be not only living life, but preparing the earth and things for that 7th generation. So not even just our children and grandchildren, but 7 generations to the future.
Oh, man. There's so many, I'm not even going to get started. There's so many things that scare me about the world, but maybe this event will be kind of a head slap.
It's basically, this is a wake-up call, or sometimes in military terms, they would call this the shot over the bow.
Uh-huh.
So we are in a time that, and I'm watching a few other events coming up, and one of them is our next solar cycle, because those things are all part of the cosmos plan for the earth. And if the humans don't get on board and start redirecting some of their path, we will be subject to what the cosmos will say. And as Mad Bear would put it, he said, this next event that he would describe, he said, it's referred to as the Great Purification. But the purifications that have happened in the past have been typically for the higher evolution of the physical life. The Great Purification is one that will cross the boundary into the spirit world, because the humans have actually had an influence in damaging elements in the etherical layers of the earth.
That's a new one.
Yeah, well,
you never told me that before. You always save it for when we're on camera. Now you tell me the new stuff.
Well, this is stuff that the humans cannot repair the damage on the etherical layers. They can only stop continuing to damage that, but they can't repair it. The repair has to be done on this other level. So it's a combination of cosmic events and earth events. But from what I've heard in the past, these damaged layers are the ones that used to, when life would leave the earth, if it was a life that, let's describe it as troubled, and they may have been depressed, they may have abused different elements to try to satisfy that disturbance in their life. And if they left here through means of too much alcohol, and if they died under those situations where they were really destroying their life with alcohol, but it's any other element, any of the drugs. Those things, when we leave here, alter that spirit.
Wow.
They're no longer intact the way they came here. There are layers around the earth which would contain that energy. So when they did nuclear testing, the primitive process they used to split an atom actually harmed and damaged the etherical layers around the earth. Those layers were supposed to be containments that would take that energy and hold on to it. Those individuals that created that energy or fell into that disturbed part of life, they would be held in these layers or in these containment, and they're represented by color. So those etherical layers that are the different colors, they would hold those individuals and they would be counseled, and they would be shown how to make improvements on their next journey.
Sort of like a purgatory. The Christians have a purgatory. You go there and fry off a few of their sins.
Yeah,
this is a little bit like that, except a little more kinder and gentler one.
Well, it's
without the fire.
It's giving the impression that you start to understand and see you have free will, but if you miss or abuse that free will and you damage not only your own life, but those lives around you, unfortunately, those are the consequences which you have to face then. There's in that next level, there's no hiring of an attorney or the winking and nodding that goes on to try to say, give them a break. No, you've earned all of those elements.
Who taught you that?
It's a number of, I'm combining now a lot of different sources.
Yeah, so this could be pan-Native American, South American, Mayan.
And some is not
Hopi.
even Native American. It's, Gordon Michael Scallion actually was one of the key factors about the etherical layers and discovering that the damage was done during the development of the atom bomb. So these energies, though, and he cautioned and warned before these events happened, these etherical layers he saw were fractured. And the fractured layer, he said, was the red layer. And the red layer is it's an energy that when it's used correctly is really a good energy. But when it's not, he saw these red orbs and red ribbon-like elements. And they were from the people who would hang out in bars in excessive levels of harming themselves. And when they would leave here, they were represented by this red energy. But he said they would go through the etherical levels, they would hit, and actually the red layer is the one closest to the earth. But they would go in there, but because it was a fractured layer, they wouldn't stay. They would come right back to the earth. And what he saw where they were hanging out was around high schools, toxic waste dumps, taverns, and places that were really lower for just performing really poor audiences, just gathering of people with lower function.
Well, they get a little pickled on the sauce, and they're not really focusing on their higher self at the moment, I think we'll say. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that energy, he cautioned before Columbine, and he said these things are going to be attaching themselves to the very impressionable. So it was high schools, kids that don't live life in a higher level, the kids that are really getting deviant, these energies attached to that.
an old friend of mine who was an exorcist, and I mean a real exorcist. He was trained in the church. He was a Franciscan friar. But he maintained that when people really get way out on a drug, they open up, and this isn't just casual, go down to the pub and have a good time with your buddies. This is like people who really are in the grip of something that alters their mind, that it opens up a hole in their soul, and it allows, it's like they've given away their natural defenses, and it opens up a window for something to get in. But you know, Mike, with the time we have left, I'm wondering if you might be able to give a little blessing tonight, or just a few words of wisdom for anyone who's watching us tonight, who's going through a little anxiety. You're going to be
Sure.
way better at it than I would be.
Well, the best thing that people can do, and it doesn't matter where you go, whether it's a church, or it doesn't even have to be an organized area, but on your own, take something sacred. We use plants in ways that we use as an offering, or you can burn like incense. There's many things that are even referenced biblically that they use. So frankincense is one that is used in that manner. But tell this medicine is what we call it. And this is a blessing for everyone. Tell that medicine as you're offering it to not only help yourself receive insights to how to live this life, but to ask that virus, give it its name, the coronavirus 19, and say, hurry up and get done with what you're doing, and then move on. Get out of that. We don't need it here. So use that as a blessing to tell it to move on. We can do that. Not only individually, but then that becomes a collective.
A collective ritual involving the energy force of
which
lots
is
of people.
The most powerful element.
It's pretty good. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for joining us tonight on Spirit Way Project. We'll be back and see you sometime soon.